Hello and welcome to this episode of KYP Talks with me, Sarah Burnett, your host and Chief Technology Evangelist at KYP.ai. With me today, I'm delighted to have Dr. Marcell Vollmer to talk about procurement transformation, supply chain transformation, and the role that process intelligence and process mining can play in these fields. Marcell is a very well-known figure in the industry. He is a partner and director at Boston Consulting Group, where based on his 20 years of experience, he helps clients strategically with digital transformation, and in particular in the field of procurement, supply chain, and shared services. Prior to working for BCG, Marcell held a number of senior roles, including C-level executive roles, and one of those was at SAP Ariba, where he was Chief Operations Officer. Marcell, a warm welcome to you.
So many thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure having this interview with you. And probably we should also mention that I was Chief Innovation Officer at a market leader for process analytics, process mining, where I really had a chance to go very deep into all aspects of processes, even beyond the functional areas, what you mentioned. I look forward to having this interview with you today.
And me too. Let me start by asking you about some of the findings of the excellent report that you've produced, the Procurement Profession Survey, and you've done that in conjunction with the University of Mannheim and the Institute of Supply Management. I found the data very interesting, and one that particularly caught my eye, one piece of data that caught my eye, was the fact that data continues to be a problem, accessing it and having good quality data, and that is hampering performance. And just to give you a bit of background about me, I come from the world of business intelligence with a focus on data quality, data integration, and analytics. And given that we live in a world where we can not only get the macro view of business, you know, their business you're in, with business intelligence solutions, but with software like KYP, you can actually zoom right down to the process level as well and get that data too. So I find it unbelievable that at the beginning of 2022, we still have this problem. Data is still a problem. What are your takes on that?
I couldn't agree more. It is still shocking to see that companies sit on a data lake of really very valuable information, but still struggle by accessing the data in a meaningful way, meaning to get insights from the data they have. And the Procurement Profession Survey you mentioned, I think it is the largest survey, at least in 2021, what I have seen, with more than 1,100 participants providing feedback. We basically got confirmed that the problem still continues, that on the one side, yes, there are data. On the other side, master data, using the master data to get analytical insights out of it is still a big challenge for companies. Another challenge, by the way, is that there's also a lack in the market on having the right experts to work with big data. So this includes also people programming algorithms. This includes data scientists, data architects, and we all know we need these people to really get something meaningful out of it. And procurement in particular, it is all about the data. You need to understand your suppliers. You need to understand the market. You are very much dependent on all the information if your supply chain gets disrupted. Look at what happened. COVID is a great example. I wish I could say we are beyond COVID, but we are not. We are in the middle. I'm here in Germany, in Frankfurt, and you can hear from my strong accent, I'm a German. And basically, we are now very close to have another lockdown. On the other side, COVID is only one example. We have seen what one single ship can do, the Evergreen, a few months back, which got stuck in the Suez Canal. And look at this. Basically, we simply don't have the transparency about what was really on that ship, which container, what was the impact, but not only the ship, the Evergreen. I spoke to one CPO who had a chance to get access very soon. It took 3 hours to know exactly which containers belong to them, but there were also a lot of ships, hundreds of ships impacted before and after the Suez Canal from both sides, basically also having problems to continue basically providing the containers to the next neighbor to really provide the supplies where they have been ordered. So that's the reason why we need to have more transparency and really work with the data in a much different way than we do today.
Absolutely. And of course, the supply chain issues that the world is facing today is unprecedented, and that is all because of the problems of the pandemic. And I believe technology can seriously help organizations deal with some of the challenges that they face. And I know you're particularly keen on artificial intelligence as well. And maybe you could tell us how you see these intelligent technologies play a role in this very difficult times that we live in, and in particular focus on supply chain.
Absolutely. So technology can help a lot. And I'm a big fan of artificial intelligence. We need to be a little bit sensitive on how you use intelligence. Lots of people compare this with the human intelligence. We are far away from even coming close to that. But machine learning is a subset in the broader term artificial intelligence. And here I really see a use what companies can do by accessing information. And when you look at a supply chain, basically a supply chain, you can define it in 4 words in a very simplified way. It is plan, it is source, it is make, and deliver. So the sourcing piece is related to procurement, and you need really to have all the information about that from every single step to ensure that you provide whatever the goods or services are you as a company want to sell, that you know exactly where are your products from, where are the ingredients of the products from suppliers you buy from, because people want to understand and want to know what is really in the food we eat, in the clothes we buy, in the products we have in the market. And there's another aspect on sustainability on that. We are now looking also in CO2 emissions. How can you really know and understand what are the emissions, especially when we talk about scope 3? So basically what we get from suppliers as goods, and on the other side also what we distribute to the wholesaler or to the customer at the end in the process. And all of that is related to processes. Processes are connecting the world, and therefore I'm a big fan of process analytics and using process mining technology. And you only can use it with machine learning capabilities, because you need really to see what are the different events you have. When does a process start? What is the next step? What is the quantity in that process? And you also need to understand what is the friction. Is there anything what is disrupting your process flow? And if yes, what are the reasons for that? Of course, a ship like the Evergreen, that's a disaster. That's a catastrophe, what happened. The same for COVID. 10 years back, it was Fukushima, or the flood in Thailand in 2011. These are the unexpected, or you can say black swan events, what we have. But how can you mitigate risk? How can you manage that? You need to understand what are the different steps in that process, and also identifying, are there ways in using intelligent information to basically use the early insights by basically defining a risk mitigation strategy? For example, looking for local suppliers, looking for alternatives, don't do sole suppliers, or use multiple suppliers wherever possible. It's not possible everywhere. And really, this only is based on data, and we are humans. I think we have a fantastic capability with our brain. On the other side, our brain and the input on information we are using is limited, which is a natural thing, and therefore machine learning can help a lot. by providing rules, accessing data, and connecting the data and provide it back in a meaningful way. And this is, I love dashboards to really look at the relevant information, but also continue to invest and develop what is a better way in using the information, and also making changes to the process and to the data used when you see you could get more out of it. So absolutely, I'm a big fan of the technology and the emerging technology which we have access to.
And of course, technology marches on and it's evolving the whole time that, processes get deployed. There are advances in technology going on literally every day. And yet I saw in the same report that you've produced, the procurement profession survey, that the participants thought their work this year will be less disrupted by digital transformation than the previous years. And you surmise that could have something to do with hitting the trough of disillusionment. It's understandable to some degree because we have been involved in procurement transformation for some years now. But with technology marching on, can the profession, can the industry, the sector actually afford not to take on new technology? Every day we're seeing new AI developments, and of course with process mining and process intelligence, we're getting so deep into processes and getting some insights that we've never had before. Can procurement profession afford to stand still?
No, certainly not. So procurement needs to continue to invest, need to identify the opportunities. Also, we discussed artificial intelligence, machine learning, and by that also automation, what is happening. The procurement function of today will become smaller. The reason for that is that some of the very operational administrative tasks, like scanning invoices, looking in purchase orders, connecting basically information from a scanned document to an ERP system. This is really what machines can do in a better way. And honestly, it is not, and I know some people might fear, oh, I might lose my job. But when you look in over the time, and all the emerging technologies, the World Economic Forum is assuming that probably around 85 million jobs are getting made redundant in the future due to machine learning, artificial intelligence, but also robotics as technology. On the other side, 93 million jobs will emerge and will be new in the market. And we see this. Look at drone pilots, data scientists, data architects. So therefore, I personally have a lot of hope. And by the way, it's not only just hope and trusting a report. Look at the future. I'm now a little bit over 50 years. What was the technology and what was the number of people on Earth at the time? I'm born in 1970, and my technology was television just got color. There was a radio, there was a phone, and by the way, for people, you could dial, and you had to turn a wheel, and this was one number, by the way. So yes, for millennials here or Generation Z in the call, or in the podcast, there was a time without a smartphone. You might not believe it, but it really happened. I can tell you. And look at the technology we have access to 50 years later. It is amazing. We have smartphones, we have robots, we see a lot of automation happening. We see what chatbots can do. You might use Siri, you might use Cortana, or Google for your search. Everything is supported by technology. And we were 3.6 million people on Earth around 1970. We are now close to 8 billion people. So we more than doubled the number of people. On top of that, we have seen all these emerging technologies. We don't have time that I list all of them, but it is really a magnitude of additional technology capabilities, what we have and where we have access to. And what's happening? Basically, we have the lowest unemployment rate globally. We have the best situation on health despite COVID and all the different situation. Right now, we see also that more babies will survive, and all of that is in a positive way. I don't want to say the world, everything is fine, and we know we have world hunger, we have really substantial problems also with sustainability, with the emissions we produce, our lifestyle, the consumption on resources, what we do is not sustainable. In a short term, but also in a long term. All of that, and definitely it's not perfect, but basically technology is helping us that the world run better, and that also the life of people gets improved. And I think overall that's definitely a good thing, and that's the reason why I'm a tech guy. I stayed 15 years at tech companies, including SAP, and love basically also seeing the benefits of the technology, but also being meaningful. And we need to find a way to really deal with data and the technology in a meaningful way, and therefore also politics, regulations are there. They need to support defining the boundaries of what's possible to do, what's not possible. And we see United States have a different understanding than Europe has. China has a different understanding as the second largest economy in the world. So that's something where we basically need also to see what are the regulatory requirements we are dealing with, and we need to include how to do that. By the way, we are coming back here on artificial intelligence and machine learning, because it's so much information, we can't handle that. We need to find a way really to use technology also in helping us with that.
Given the importance of process insights and how it helps organizations make better informed digital transformation decisions and working practices decisions, and the transparency that we've already talked about. And given that some of the technologies that deliver this capability are based on desktop mining, and there is hesitancy about using them in some organizations, what's your advice to organizations to square this circle?
I think desktop mining, or the task to mine everything what you're doing, probably outside information. So we should probably define that process mining is mainly related to what you have on the system side, on the data available and the process steps you have in systems. But we all know, and I mentioned, for example, you Google information, you type in a website, you might look for a supplier, you might look for information. There are tasks which are not happening in an end-to-end system where you easily have access to, because you use a website, you might use your smartphone. Therefore, it is very important also when you look at a process, you need to include all the steps. And very important, desktop mining, when you also see, oh, wow, there's a lot of stuff what is happening outside the systems, basically an employee is using, or a client is using, a supplier is using. You should look into that. Isn't there a better way in doing that? How can you do that? You need to have transparency. You need to understand what are the different steps, and also outside. And therefore, I believe you need to include desktop mining. We need to be very sensitive on data. And I'm a German. We might have one of the most regulated data protection laws globally. But definitely, it is fair to say Europe in general has very high standards on data protection, data privacy, which is absolutely fair. And I don't suggest interfering with that. But basically, I think you can also anonymize certain information because you want to understand what's happening in the process. You don't want to monitor the employees doing that. And at desktop mining, there's always a button you can simply press to stop the recording of activities. But I would suggest use the time and invest the time in really looking also in desktop mining and the activities employees do outside the system, that you can understand it. It might be you can't change it, but basically on the other side, there might be also help that you change it, that there is an application helping you to overcome the certain manual activities what you do, like we have seen from handwritten invoices, we could go to machine-generated invoices, then we could scan the invoices, and now we have end-to-end data flows in between. We only can do that because we know there was something in handwriting at a point in time back in the history. And therefore, you need to have the data. And that's why I always suggest look end-to-end really, include all information, and then take educated decisions on how can you improve it. It's not important who is doing it and what are the people doing, and it should be always possible to keep the data protection, data privacy rights at a very high level on that.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Marcell, and thank you very much for your time and the insights that you've given us today. Thank you.
So you're very welcome. It was a great interview. Highly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Goodbye, and thank you for joining us.